Kampala, Uganda. Back when I traveled here for the first time in 2019, I got my first taste of some rich African culture, and I loved it. But this time, I'm trying to experience some of that nightlife, and also link up with some old friends and go whichever way the wind takes me. As always, I'm going to show you a variety of things to do, such as activities, nightlife, and also my accommodations. So sit back as I take you through my trip to Kampala, Uganda. So for those that don't know, Uganda is located in East Africa, with South Sudan to the north, Kenya to the east, Tanzania and Rwanda to the south, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo to the west. Kampala is its capital city and has a pretty big population of 3.6 million people. So like I said earlier, this wasn't my first time visiting Kampala. During my first trip, I met some super friendly people, and this time was no different. My first day in town, some folks I met while eating lunch invited me to the Victoria Rugby Cup, which was being hosted in Uganda. This was my first time ever attending a rugby match, and it was pretty cool. Kenya beat up on Zambia pretty bad. To all my folks out in Zambia, sorry. Now the best part about the match is right after it ends, people stick around to hang out. We had a good time listening to music, eating, drinking, and just talking about life. It was great. But it didn't end there. Once the sun started going down, the music was turned up and people really started to party. They even had a few live performances. I had a blast. The next day, a friend of mine that I met during my first visit to Uganda invited me to hang out for the day. Our first stop was Mariki GoKarting. Here they have a small lounge where you can eat and drink, a small game room, and of course the racetrack. Now what she didn't know is that I'm super competitive, so I gave everybody the business out there. It was a good time. Later that night, she also invited me to a private party with some of her cast members from a local television show. Everybody at the party was super cool, and the DJ really had the party moving. I had only planned to be there for a couple hours, as I wanted to check out some of the nightlife in the city, but the party was so fun that I ended up staying until morning. Make sure you stay tuned for the whole video, because I'll be showing you how it goes down in some of the bars and nightclubs here in a minute. Anyways, the following day, I decided to go to the Uganda National Museum to check out some history. The museum made me feel kinda old, because they had things in there like VCRs, boomboxes, cassette tapes, and a bunch of other stuff from my childhood. But I guess some of this stuff is history, especially when you consider the fact that the average age of a person in Uganda is only 16, which is kind of wild when you think about it. Throughout the museum, they also have many exhibits that take you on a journey through the country's history and culture. You'll see everything from ceremonial clothing, different weapons the warriors used, as well as a variety of other historic things. I learned a lot. So, after checking out the museum, a friend of mine who knows that I love Lebanese food recommended that I try the restaurant Meza, located in the area of town called Kololo. The food here was delicious and super affordable. The customer service was great, and I ate here at least 3 times during this trip. Another good place to eat at is the restaurant Mediterraneo. This was a very nice restaurant. A good spot if you're going on a date or just having a relaxing evening. As you can imagine, they have a full menu of Mediterranean dishes that are pretty good. But my favorite place to eat was at my friend's mother's house, where she cooked a bunch of local dishes for me, like ground nuts, matoke and rice, cassava and nakati, stew, chicken. It was so good. Now when I wanted to save money and spend less on food, then you can find me downtown somewhere eating a popular dish called a Rolex, pronounced just like the watch. Basically, to make a Rolex, you cut up some veggies, mix it up with some eggs, cook the eggs, heat up a chapati, roll it up, then voila, you have yourself a Rolex. And they're actually pretty good. But even better, they only cost about 50 cents. Speaking of being downtown, if you want to see some real madness, then head over to Old Taxi Park. This is where a lot of the hustle and bustle is happening in town. Here, you're going to find a lot of people catching public transportation to different parts of the city, a lot of street vendors selling different items. Yeah, it gets pretty hectic. But from a tourist perspective, it's kind of fun and exciting. Now, let's switch gears and talk about Kampala's nightlife. The area I partied in the most is called Kololo. Here, you're gonna find a gang of different bars. My favorite bar was a spot called Mezzo. This bar had a good crowd and played a nice mix of Afro beats and American hip hop. Another cool spot with good music is the bar Catwalk. This place was much smaller, but it's still a good spot to go have drinks with friends. Some other places in the area of Kololo are Cask Bar and Lounge and Cielo Lounge. But you also have other places throughout the city like Thrones Lounge, which is located in the area of Bogolodi. Overall, Kampala has a pretty good nightlife that I thoroughly enjoyed. Now when it comes to public transportation, things get pretty interesting. The most popular mode of public transportation is called a boda boda. This is basically a motorcycle taxi. Now you can get to many places within the city for under $1 on the boda boda. But if you ask the locals, they are extremely dangerous, as the traffic in Kampala is horrible, and you're riding with no helmet. Most people know someone who has been in an accident on a boda boda or have been in one themselves. But regardless, I rode them every day during my trip as they're just so cheap, and the locals feel the same way. They also have Uber in Kampala, which is also very affordable. But with that said, Uber isn't as reliable in Kampala as other parts of the world. In Kampala, your Uber driver might show up and tell you they don't have enough gas money to take you to your destination. Or even worse, they might not show up at all. But no matter what mode of transportation you choose, it's very easy getting around Kampala. As far as my hotel accommodations, I stayed at the Protea Hotel by Marriott. Their standard rooms during my visit were about $125 per night. But since I'm a Platinum Bonvoy member, they upgraded me to their executive suite at no charge. This was a good sized room, big enough to have a little get together if you want it. All their rooms have all the basic amenities you would expect, like Wi-Fi, cable television, a refrigerator, and so on. This was actually a really nice stay. Just about every evening, they would have a live band come out to perform, which I sometimes enjoyed from my balcony. And they also have an excellent dinner menu and buffet at their restaurant, which is where the live performances take place. The hotel hosts many different public and private dinner events, weddings. They have a decent gym. I was highly impressed overall, and I would highly recommend this hotel. Kampala definitely has a special place in my heart because of all the amazing people and hospitality I always receive, and I just love the culture here. But don't take my word for it. You should come experience it for yourself if you get the chance. As far as visa requirements, US citizens do need a visa, which you can obtain electronically. If you're a subscriber and saw my Nairobi, Kenya video, then you know that I applied for the East African Tourist Visa, which is a joint tourist visa issued to people who plan on traveling within the countries of Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda for tourism. Well, Uganda offers the exact same thing, and the process is just as easy. The application for the East African Tourist Visa is $100, but if you just want the Uganda Tourist Visa, then the application fee is only $50. I recommend getting the East African Tourist Visa and visiting Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda if your schedule and budget permits. I have videos on all three countries. If you want to check them out, you can click on the playlist on the screen. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.